You're lying on the ground. You've just been stabbed. You can feel your life draining out. You're fading, but your attacker still looms nearby. Flashing red and blue lights, thank God the police are here. But the man who stabbed you approaches the officers first. He tells them in a calm tone that you attacked him. You gasp through blood-filled lungs. "I've been stabbed." Your attacker tells them, "You have not been stabbed." Can this be real? When the cop finally reaches you, you desperately choke out, "I've been stabbed, help me please." You're only 18 years old, and the last thing you'll ever hear is the officer saying, "I don't think you have, mate." And then, nothing. Tonight on Disaffected, it is a horror, but it is not fiction. This just happened to an 18-year-old boy in England. We're going to excavate the evil and expose the animus that made this horror possible as we try to figure out if there is any difference between the good guys and the monsters. Tonight on Disaffected. Modern white men are acting strangely. They seem to want cultural suicide. When their sons are murdered in cold blood, instead of raging against the killer, fathers are publicly apologizing to the killer's community. While most parents would wish pain and suffering on the monster who killed their child, these fathers spend their time telling the public not to be racist. We've got an example tonight you won't believe. The father of a white English boy murdered by a psychopathic Indian Sikh got in front of cameras to say that his dead son wouldn't want the public to indulge in hate and division. With men this gelded, you might be asking, who's the real monster? Then we're going to talk about why these modern men are like this. Why they're trying to be capital G, capital B, good boys, while foreigners and blacks rape their daughters and kill their sons. It's June 7th, 2026, and you're watching, and you are, Disaffected. This is the show that looks at politics, culture, and relationships through a psychological lens, and that lens is sharpening an image of our narcissistic, sociopathic, and self-hating society. I'm Joshua Slocum. Let's get dark. Since Kevin and I started this show in 2021, we've put forward a thesis that we're living in a cluster B world. That's cluster B personality disorders, pathological narcissism, unstable, wild emotions like you see in borderline personalities, and sociopathic indifference to the welfare of other people. Tonight's topic is the most compelling example so far of how accurate that thesis is. We're going to talk about the murder of 18-year-old white Englishman Henry Nowak in England. Henry was murdered by an Indian Sikh, a psychopath who acted like American blacks do and almost got away with it. The murderer felt disrespected, so he decided to gut Henry like a fish with his special exception knife that Sikhs and no one else is allowed to carry under British law. And British law calls those knives, and this is a direct quote from the statute, a mandatory article of faith. Under a 1988 law, Sikhs and no one else in Britain may carry knives because their faith says it's mandatory to do so. No one else can carry a knife to defend themselves. No one in Britain is allowed to carry a gun. Brits aren't even allowed to carry pepper spray. Yeah. White people, English people, European whites and their descendants. Do you understand yet what's being done to you? Do you understand that your own government thinks you're vermin? That they're happy to see you killed while depriving you of the means to defend your own life? You can't not see it after this. Let's go back to Henry Nowak's murder. The guy who killed him, a young Sikh named Vikram Digwa, decided to use the all-powerful weapon that black and brown people have been trained to use against white people, an accusation of racism. By invoking that accusation, murderer Vikram Digwa convinced white British police that he, the murderer, was the true victim. The cops showed up and saw Henry Nowak, the white boy, on the ground, incoherent, begging for help, stating out loud that he'd been stabbed and he was dying, and they did nothing. Oh, they did more than nothing, worse than nothing. They talked casually with the murderer and his brother at the scene, assuring them that they, the cops, agreed that Henry was lying about being stabbed. He hadn't been stabbed. And that they were concerned about Henry's alleged racism. So the white English cops, watching Henry Nowak on the ground bleeding out, handcuffed him as he lay dying. They arrested him for racial assault, and they read him his rights the very moment he died. We're going to see that on camera. No one called an ambulance. None of the police checked to see if Henry had been stabbed as he said he was, as he begged them to help him. Well, he had been stabbed 4 times. We're going to watch him die on camera tonight. We'll see the same thing that the cops saw while they were there in person. And we will hear a white police officer tell a fellow white man that he, the cop, did not believe Henry's claim of being stabbed. The cop said, "I don't think you have been, mate." This is the result of a deliberate brainwashing campaign that's been going on in the civilized West since at least the 1960s. It's Marxist and communist in origin. White people in the West have been battered, Clockwork Orange style, with the message that to be born white is to be born fundamentally evil. It's been relentless and it has been incredibly effective. It is so effective that when sociologists take surveys to measure public sentiment, they find something unique. They find that white Westerners are the only ethnic demographic in the world who have higher positive feelings for the out group, for black and brown people, than they have for the in group, their own white people. That needs to be repeated. White Westerners despise white Westerners and have warm, sympathetic feelings about anyone who is not white. We are the only group in the world that behaves this way. No one else does. Imagine what you would think if you polled mothers and you found that they were the only group who despised their own children, but they'd go out of their way to feed and clothe other people's children at the expense of their own kids. That's us white people. That's us. This is why nation states like Great Britain and Canada are on the cusp of losing first world status. The governments steal tax money from productive citizens and give it to foreigners, or to anyone who's not white, or anyone who's not here legally, whether they work or not, whether they are citizens or not. You know the story of my childhood from watching this show. You know that my mother has borderline and narcissistic personality disorders. She allowed her children to be beaten and molested by her husband. She beat her children. She lied to them. She lied about them. She blamed us for her failure to launch a successful career because we were born. She felt entitled to her children's money and her children's effort so that she wouldn't have to work. And when her abuse finally became too much to tolerate and her kids fought back, my mother institutionalized 2 out of the 3 of us in homes for delinquent kids. The 3rd, my brother, ran away. We were literally sent to jail to pay for our mother's crimes. That's what happened to Henry Nowak, but worse. He died. Some scumbag foreigners who hate white people decided to kill him for being white and disrespecting them. They managed to get white police officers to take their side. The cops arrested Henry and they handcuffed him, and Henry was charged with a crime that didn't happen while his murderer stood there watching and bantering with the police. Then Henry died in handcuffs while the white cops talked in calm voices like nothing extraordinary was happening on the ground in front of them. This is cluster B. This is psychopathy. It's murderous gaslighting. Disaffected's thesis has always been right. As in the home, so in society. The kind of moral and psychiatric derangement that animated the child abuse in my home, that drives child and domestic abuse in millions of homes, is now operational at societal scale. The entire West is now living in my mother's funhouse mirror world where right is wrong, murder is love, and innocent children are perpetrators. This is where you are now. You and me, we're here now. There's no more time. If you don't want to hear the truth about how normal, stable, nonviolent white Westerners are legal murder targets for black and brown people, then turn the show off. You're not going to make it, and I don't have time to monitor you and look over your shoulder, look over my shoulder, wondering if you'll hand a black brother the knife when he wants to put it in my back. Americans, wake up from the delusion of the civil rights era. Wake up or watch your daughter raped. Wake up or be shot and killed with the knowledge that your brown murderer has a good chance of getting away with it. Wake up or resign yourself to being a permanent underclass whose money and whose children become the property of any third world foreigner who sees easy pickings. We're going to go through what happened to Henry Nowak, and I warn you that this is the most disturbing video footage I have ever seen. No exaggeration. It's the depraved indifference of the cops cooperating with the murderer that makes it that way. It's not gory. You're not going to see gore, but it is chilling. It is more disturbing than your initial reaction to seeing the George Floyd video, even if you were convinced by that. This is worse. Then we're going to come back to the U.S. and catch up with the murder trial of Karmelo Anthony. You remember him. He's the black 17-year-old in Frisco, Texas, who stabbed white 17-year-old Austin Metcalf in the heart, killing him because Austin told the black man that he wasn't entitled to sit under a team tent that he didn't belong to. We're also going to give the fathers of both of these young men the hard criticism they deserve. Both Austin Metcalf's father in the U.S. and Henry Nowak's father in England both got up in front of the camera to urge their fellow white people not to use their sons' deaths for racist ends. That's how bad this is. That's how abused, cowed, and brainwashed white Western men are. We're going at the men tonight. You can murder their sons, and the very next day they'll tell everyone not to be angry, not to be divisive, not to notice that it's black and brown people raping and killing white people, not the other way around. You can even make a man whose son was murdered. You can take him and make him preach 1960s ecumenical bullshit to shut up white anger. This is where we are. Let's get into the Henry Nowak case. This murder happened just before Christmas in 2025, so it's about 6 months ago. We're only hearing about it by chance now because Vikram Digwa, the murderer, was actually convicted, shockingly, in an English court. We're only hearing about it, and we're only hearing about the police who let Henry die because all of this finally came out in court. It's been hushed up. How many more cases like this have been going on for decades? I'm willing to place big money on the bet, a whole bunch. Here are the facts of the case. Here's a picture of Henry Nowak, an Englishman from Southampton. He was 18 when he was murdered. This is a Vikram Digwa, the Sikh who murdered Henry Nowak. This is Vikram's brother, Gurpreet. And here's the mother of these two men, Kiran Kaur. At the request of her sons, she showed up to the murder scene to take the knife, and she hid it from police. She has now been convicted as accessory to murder. Here's what happened. Henry was walking home at night in Southampton with friends after a night at the pub. Note carefully, Henry was not drunk. He was not drunk. His blood alcohol was tested and he was below the legal limit for driving, not drunk. Vikram Digwa, the Sikh, and his brother Gurpreet were also out walking. Nowak noticed Digwa's prominent ceremonial dagger, his Sikh dagger, that he carries, and apparently made a cheeky comment asking Digwa if he was a bad man. That slang apparently means badass. Are you a badass? Nowak also started filming Digwa with his phone. Well, Digwa did not like this, so he stole Henry's phone and then he stabbed him 4 times. One of those stabs severed a vein buried behind Henry's collarbone, so he began hemorrhaging internally. Henry tried to run. He got over a fence. He tried to climb over some trash bins. Digwa followed Henry and kept filming him and taunting him as he tried to get away. When Henry lost so much blood that he collapsed, Digwa kept taunting him. Henry said, "You stabbed me." Digwa said, "No, I didn't." Henry said, "I'm dying." Digwa said, "You're not dying, bro." And kept filming him, kept taunting him. Self-preservation for Digwa apparently finally kicked in. It seems that the Digwa brothers knew that they'd need to come up with a story that exculpated them, since they knew that Henry was going to die and they'd be held responsible. So brother Gurpreet called 999, that's England's version of America's 911, called 999 to report that Henry Nowak had assaulted them. Nice reversal, huh? Listen carefully to what I'm about to play for you. You're going to hear Gurpreet, the brother, use one magic word that stopped Henry from getting help and made sure that he died. One magic word that hypnotized the responding police. One magic word that made those cops unable to see and unable to care that Henry was dying, even though he was lying on the ground, gurgling and begging for help. See if you can pick up on that magic word as we play you this 999 call.
We just got attacked racially by some white person.
Right, okay. Whereabouts are you?
We're on Belmont Road.
Just out in the street, are you?
Sorry?
You're just in the street?
Yeah, literally. I just parked up my car to come home and he's attacked my brother.
You're talking about verbally or physically?
No, he physically attacked my brother. We're Sikhs, we wear turban and he's just attacked my brother.
Have any weapons been involved?
No. What did he say to you?
Oh, who do you think you are? I was like, look, bro, you're drunk, carry on, walk on. Then I go, he goes, oh, who do you think I'm a bad man? I was like, oh, look, I'm a bad man. I'm speaking with you.
Gurpreet, what did he say? Was he racially abusive?
The police need a report, come here. Yeah, he was. So basically, he stumbled into my brother.
Yeah.
So do you want to speak to my brother?
No, you carry on. He stumbled into him, and then what did he do?
Okay. So he stumbled into you, and then what?
Yeah, so he's walked into me and stumbled. He's drunk. I clearly said to him, look, mate, you're drunk. Carry on about your day. Do what you need to do.
And then what?
Then he goes to me, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
He goes, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to my brother? And then what?
And then he goes, oh, you're this, you're that. Who do you think you're a bad man? I was like, yeah, I'm a bad man. What? Then he starts recording me.
Right.
As he's recording me, I snatched his phone. He's then laid a punch onto me. He's pushed me back and my turban's come off. He started then grabbing my head. So I then grabbed him and then he started pushing me, attacking me even further and everything like that.
At the minute now he's lying on the floor. He was trying to get away. He jumped over some bins and stuff on the other neighbour side. He jumped over the bins and tried to leave through the bin way. He's left a shoe here as well.
So he doesn't have any injuries?
He's hurt his face. I think he's fallen because when he tried to climb over the bin, he's fallen from the one side of the bins over the gates to the other side.
I think he needs medical attention.
Does he need medical attention, you reckon? He will, yeah, I believe, yeah.
Just to confirm, no one's seen any weapons?
No. I don't know what weapons it would be.
No. I don't know what weapons there would be. So the very first thing he says on the call is, we were just racially attacked by some white person. Does that sound like natural language to you? Or does it sound like some brown piece of shit who's hip to how easy it is to manipulate white liberals with magic words? He physically attacked my brother. My brother. We're Sikhs. We wear turbans. Remember, this man's brother, Gurpreet's brother Vikram, I'll admit it. It's making me physically sick to say their fucking names. I'm so sick of these. Remember, this man's brother just stabbed Henry Nowak 4 times and followed Henry as Henry bled out, leaving a trail of blood that he saw. Followed him to film him and to taunt him. 999 cop asks, have any weapons been involved? Gurpreet says, no, no, no. 999 asks, was he racially abusive? Gurpreet says, he's drunk. No, Henry was not drunk. Then Vikram, the murderer, gets into it. He lays a punch onto me. My turban's come off. 999 asks, so he, Henry, doesn't have any injuries? Vikram, he's hurt his face. Then Gurpreet, the brother, says, no, I don't know what weapons there would be when they ask him the second time if any weapons were involved. So we now know that Vikram Digwa stabbed Henry Nowak and that Henry was dying. Vikram and his brother Gurpreet lied to the police, obviously hoping that Henry would die before they got there so that his side of the story couldn't be told, and they got their wish. Turns out they didn't need to worry, though. Their magical, racially attacked hypnosis word did its job. The white cops who showed up were fully under the spell. And they stood around chatting calmly with the murderer and his brother while Henry lay on the ground dying in front of them. The murderer was making sure they kept talking so that Henry would bleed out and die, and the cops were right on board with it. What I'm about to show you is video of the police body cam when the police arrived on the scene. You're going to see how they took the murderer's word for it, that he didn't do nothing. You'll see how they didn't bother to check Henry for any wounds. You will hear how Henry begs for his life and says repeatedly, I've been stabbed. And then you will hear the white male police officer say, I don't think you have, mate. Let's play it out.
My dad's holding it. Right. He keeps dropping.
What you're seeing right now on the left is
got a mouthful of blood. I don't want him. I can't breathe. He was on the bin on the other side of this gate. He's jumped over.
That's Digwa's father trying to prop Henry up because he keeps collapsing. Digwa's father said his mouth is full of blood. Nobody heard that. Nobody noticed.
Huh? Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Yeah, me. He's grabbed my brother. He's took my turban off. Started grabbing my head.
That's Gurpreet.
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruise.
Alright, just step back a little bit for me. Someone flag these down.
There's Henry on the ground dying.
Let's get you out of there, shall we?
I was in bed asleep. When it was just going up,
Grab his other arm.
Now they're dragging him. They're dragging him across the gravel.
Right. What's happened to you, right? You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? I don't think you have, mate.
Been stabbed. Whereabouts? They're cuffing him.
Hand. Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
He's saying, I can't breathe. Because his lungs are filling with blood. Can't breathe.
90 foot.
Totally unconcerned. Nonchalant.
He's saying he's been stabbed, so let's just check him. Been stabbed? In the face? Oh no, but we have to check, don't we?
Right.
In the face?
Just get these back off, get their details and that, and I'll keep hold of him.
He's begging.
On his side, mate. You better
They don't
retrieve
care.
then.
Say again.
Saying to him, I'm keeping him on his side. We were set up when we had him here, but he didn't like it. What's your name, mate? At the moment, you are under arrest. That's for assault, so you do not have to say anything. May harm in defence if you do not mention when questioned. It's up to which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, alright? It's going to be sick, I think.
He's dead now. He died.
What's his name?
I just want you to call it.
Yeah, we've got this male. He's been beat up. Are we able to get an ambulance, please?
His pupils aren't even reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah, his pupils are not reacting. We've got to check, don't we? Just like ticking off a list from HR. Henry said, "I can't breathe," repeatedly. If you listen carefully, you can hear him gurgling through the blood in his lungs. Apparently they couldn't, even though they were right there. "I can't breathe" only works when you're a black defendant and you're lying. It only works if you're a scumbag criminal like George Floyd, who died of a drug overdose, but got to put white cop Derek Chauvin in jail for a murder that never happened. If you're white and you actually can't breathe, it doesn't matter. Your fellow white people will say that you can breathe, and you're lying. They'll drag you by the arms over the gravel after you've been stabbed, increasing your hemorrhaging. They won't even check. You notice that, right? Henry says, "I've been stabbed." The white male cop said, "I don't think you have, mate." And he didn't check because brown man Sikh said he didn't do nothing. But he was assaulted. "My turban came off." Did you hear the lady cop respond to that? She says, I don't know if you can hear it, but one of the brothers is saying that he wasn't stabbed, and her response was, "I know, but we've got to check anyway." I know. She said to the murderer, basically, "I know you're right that you didn't stab him, but rules say we have to check anyway." Sit there and take this all in. This is depraved indifference to the point of psychopathic sadism. And it's white Brits being indifferent to the point of depravity over a boy whose mouth is full of blood and he's falling over. It's so hard to accept that this is real, but it is real, and you need to accept it. And you need to get furiously angry, rage, white, hot, nuclear rage. If you can't get there, we have no chance. If you've ever doubted that we live in a narcissistic and psychopathic society, you cannot doubt it anymore. After the break, we're going to continue with the Nowak story. We're going to look at the media coverage, which is all about calling white people racist for being angry. It's all about accusing white people and conservatives of using this unfortunate incident to foment hate and division. We will listen to Henry Nowak's father insult and degrade his own son by turning his press conference into a call for people to not look back in anger. Only white people are this suicidal.
Sorry, we just got attacked racially by some white person. No, he physically attacked my brother. We're Sikhs, we wear a turban, and he just attacked my brother.
Have any weapons been involved?
No.
Are you bedeviled by a narcissistic mother who thinks you can't do anything right? Do you have an emotionally unstable father who pops off and screams at you and then tells you that you're the one who ruined the family Christmas dinner? Are you surrounded by woke people at work who are constantly asking you why you're not wearing a pride pin? And do you have nobody that you feel safe talking to about this? You can talk to me. What I offer is not mental health therapy. I am not a therapist, but we talk about issues of cluster B abuse, manipulation, and being put on the outside of your social circle because you won't go along with the left. I am, in fact, a safe space for that kind of conversation. And if you've got a particular problem with a particular relationship, what I offer you is not only a sounding board. I will give you my best objective view of what it looks like to me from the outside, but I will also walk through this with you, and we will identify what your options are to deal with this situation, A, B, and C. I can't solve your problem for you. You can solve your problem for you, but I can help you figure out how to do that. And I want to walk you through each pathway and evaluate the pros and cons so that you can figure out which set of trade-offs you can live with. If this sounds good to you, look me up on my site, joshuaslocum.net. Click on Book Now and you'll find my calendar. Make an appointment. I'd be happy to talk to you. If you don't find a time that works for you, send me an email through the site and let me know what times and days are good, and I'll meet you there. And also, I don't want money to be a barrier for you. I've been, as the Brits say, skint from time to time. If money's tight for you, I will meet you where you're at on a sliding scale. Don't be afraid and don't be embarrassed to ask. Other people have done it for me. Check it out at joshuaslocum.net. There's a cost to doing a show like this, and I would like to ask for your help to defray some of that cost. There are hard costs, there costs money, but there's a personal cost to this too. Not trying to whine or complain, but you do take some brickbats when you're willing to say the things that we say on this show. And if you appreciate hearing something on this show that you don't find in many other places, I'd like to ask you again to put your money where my mouth is. Would you join as a monthly supporting member? You can do so by signing up and making a monthly contribution through disaffectedpod.substack.com or at subscribestar.com/disaffected. Same content in both places, just got a couple of different platforms. Starts out very modestly, but it does a lot to help us keep making this show. And when you are a monthly supporting member, you get a special members-only invitation to our private Discord chat server that's like social media with only 5% of the nastiness, and the other 95% is very cool people like you who watch the show and talk about the topics. If you don't want another subscription, one-offs are gratefully accepted. Very easy. Go to disaffected.com and click on the link, support us. Give in any amount you like, $3 or $1 million. And if you want to play paper mail with me, I'm still running my special teaser offer. You will get in the mail, if you send us a contribution through the U.S. Postal Service, I will send you a packet of 4S sourdough starter. That stands for Sour Slocum's Sourdough Starter. It's dried, powdered sourdough starter that I made myself at home and that I use to bake my bread. So if you'd like some of that, send your postcards. Well, you can't really send money in a postcard, but you can send a postcard anyway. But send a contribution of your choice to our post office box, which is at Disaffected Productions, 89 Main Street, Box 1027, Montpelier, Vermont, 05601. And if you are sending a check, kindly make that check payable to Disaffected Productions. You already know what the media reaction to the killing of Henry Nowak will be, and we'll get to it in a minute. Remember I told you that the murderer, Vikram Dikwa's mother, showed up to hide the murder knife for her baby boy? These piece of shit Indians did more than that. When Vikram was convicted in court during the sentencing, that family stood up and started railing against Nowak's family and the court. The victim's family, they called them racist. Contemplate how confident you have to be to do that. Think about how society has been structured and for how long it's been structured this way. That someone like that would feel comfortable, unashamed, not afraid of consequences, to call the family of a boy that your son murdered racist as your son was being sentenced for his murder. Is this clear enough yet? Do you understand yet where we are? If not, here's more. Here's Amnesty International's reaction. Remember, murder is not the problem. It's white people being angry about being murdered that is the problem. I'm going to make another aside. I've told you this before. I'll get to that. I'll read you this in a minute. I've told you before that in my home, when my mother terrified me or my sister or my brother, when she hit us, when she screamed at us, when she lied, when she backed us into a corner, if we objected, if we showed fear, she treated the objection and the fear as an act of assault against her. That's what's going on here. That's the cluster B tie-in. Getting angry that white people are getting angry about being murdered. It's unbelievable. Foreigners murder whites. Foreigners most affected. All right, let's read Amnesty International's quote. In response to the political commentary that has followed the tragic murder of Henry Nowak, an Amnesty International UK spokesperson said, quote, at a time when hate crimes are rising and violence and fear are becoming a daily reality for people of color and migrants, then calls for cold, hard rage are completely reckless. Henry Nowak's murder is an awful tragedy, and his family have said, quote, we do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension. The very least politicians can do is respect that. Irresponsible narratives of two-tier policing to sow division and fly in the face of decades of evidence of institutional failure within policing and disparities faced by racialized communities. I'm not even going to read the rest. Fear is a daily reality for people of color. That's their reaction to a people of color gutting white English boy Henry Nowak like a fucking fish. Pay attention to the message. There's a reason they always tell you not to look back in anger. There's a reason they characterize righteous anger as insane and as violent. They're gaslighting you, and it works on at least half the population. It shuts down your normal, sane, and necessary anger because anger prods action. They don't want that. They want you impotent. And too many white Western people comply. Let's reintroduce you to Humza Yousaf. He's the former First Minister of Scotland. Let's go back a few years and refresh you about who Humza Yousaf is before we show you his reaction to the political backlash stoked by yet another brown-on-white killing. This is him a few years ago speaking to the Scottish Parliament.
Lord Justice Clark, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The Head of the Law Society, white. The Head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every Prison Governor, white. And not just Justice. The Chief Medical Officer, white. The Chief Nursing Officer, white. The Chief Veterinary Officer, white. The Chief Social Work Advisor, white. Almost every trade union in this country headed by people who are white. In the Scottish Government, every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white.
Do you hear the disgust? He spits the word white. White! White! As if it's insane that Scotland is majority white? I'm just going to ask, do you think we white people don't have a homeland that we're indigenous to? Yes, they do say that. But it isn't true. The British Isles are the indigenous home of white Britons. That's where my family comes from. That's where most of this country came from. We are a descendant culture of England. America is an English colony that became a nation. Our culture is founded on English culture. Our legal system comes from English common law and the Magna Carta. We are the indigenous people of the British Isles. Hey, white viewers, listeners, are you awake yet? Has this tickled any of your self-preservation instincts yet? Does your daughter need to be raped? How about your son? Should he be murdered? Would it help if the police laughed while your kid was killed and read him his rights while he spit up blood and died on camera? Is that what you need? If it is, hold on a little while and you're going to get it. Fast forward to today. Here is Humza Yousaf reacting to the murder.
Henry Nowak's family are a credit to this country. Their son Henry was the victim of an awful murder. And to compound such a horrific tragedy, mistakes were clearly made by the police, for which there must be answers and accountability. Most people's reaction, like mine, to Henry's murder was heartbreak, anguish, an outpouring of compassion for the family. Another young life lost to knife crime. Another future that will now not be realised. However, there are some Sikh individuals who are using Henry's murder to not only further their own hateful ideology, but also to divide society. That's despite the words of Henry's father, Mark Nowak, who said, and I quote, "We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension." So shame on you, Nigel Farage, for ignoring and dishonouring the Nowak family. The Nowak family are full of integrity, and it speaks volumes to their character that in the midst of their grief, they use their statement to call on others not to abuse Henry's murder or memory for their own evil ends. Let's hope that the Nowak family's wishes are respected by the vast majority, and importantly, that the family get justice for Henry that they so deserve.
Loathsome pig. Henry Nowak's family is a credit to this country. Why? Because they're docile, abused, beaten down white people. That's why. You're going to see it. That's exactly what these non-white motherfuckers who have infiltrated Western government want. White men and women who bend over and ask for it. And then let you know it's okay to do it dry, too. Oh, is that vulgar? Well, it's true, isn't it? Are you going to bend over, too? Henry Nowak's father did. As much as I'm sorry for what happened to his son, and as much as I understand he is grieving, Mr. Nowak's response disgusts me. He insults his son by singing this Kumbaya script.
We want to use Henry's heartbreaking story to make change for the better. We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone. That is why we are calling on the government to treat knife crime as the national emergency that it is.
Pathetic. He hit all the points that a weakened society wants. Don't get angry. Don't foment hate. Don't cause division. Treat knife crime like the emergency it is. Knife crime. The problem is knife crime. This is Henry's own father pretending that this is not a racial issue, that it's not a government corruption issue. He's pretending, or he's so brainwashed that he believes, that free-floating knife crime is the problem. That's what killed his son. Knife crime. It's not knife crime. It's murder of whites by non-whites. It's pure, pathological, murderous hatred of white Britons. Even a man whose own son was murdered by a brown-skinned psychopath who tried to frame the victim as a racist who assaulted the murderer, even dad picks this up and runs with it. It's disgusting. I'll tell you what. If I am murdered by somebody like this, I want you to use my murder to foment rage, absolute rage, riots, yes, physical violence, force the conversation. And I know a lot of men who feel as I do. And this is very like what we've seen in the United States. On August 22nd, 2023, an illegal Haitian without a driver's license crashed into a bus that 11-year-old Aiden Clark was riding in, and Aiden was killed. This is the third time we've mentioned this on this show because it's a pattern. This was happening, that crash in 2023 took place in the middle of an increase in public awareness about the thousands of Haitian third worlders invading the U.S. and causing mayhem at the behest and invitation of the Joe Biden presidential administration. Well, here was Aiden's father reacting.
Our best interest to be here after recent comments. You know, I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. And I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone. The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces. But even that's not good enough for them. They take it one step further. They make it seem as though our wonderful Aiden appreciates your hate, that we should follow their hate. And look what you've done to us. We have to get up here and beg them to stop. Using Aiden as a political tool is, to say the least, reprehensible for any political purpose. And speaking of morally bankrupt, politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, they have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They can vomit all the hate they want about illegal immigrants, the border crisis, and even untrue claims about fluffy pets being ravaged and eaten by community members. However, they are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed, to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies. To clear the air, my son, Aiden Clark, was not murdered. He was accidentally killed by an immigrant from Haiti. This tragedy is felt all over this community, the state, and even the nation. But don't spin this towards hate. In order to live like Aiden, you need to accept everyone. Choose to shine, make the difference, lead the way, and be the inspiration. What many people in this community and state and nation are doing is the opposite of what you should be doing. Sure, we have our problems here in Springfield.
Look at her.
And in the U.S., but does Aiden Clark have anything to do with that? Did you know that an 11-year-old boy could be passionate about gardening, that he could haggle for a better price at a yard sale?
Jesus, loathsome. Shine a light. Quote, I wish my son Aiden was killed by a 60-year-old white man. Look at the brainwashing that it takes to make a man whose son was killed by third world illegal scum to be more angry at the white American politicians who are trying to help people like him than he is at the scum who killed his son. He's angry at Republicans who would have protected his son. It's incredible. This is the stuff you saw under communist regimes. It's here. It's been here for a long time. It's everywhere. Let's go back to the Karmelo Anthony case that's going on right now. You will recall that on April 2nd, 2025, white 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was attending a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Black 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony showed up and gave himself a seat under the tent reserved for Austin Metcalf's team, a place Anthony had no right to be. Anthony brought a bag with him that contained a knife at the ready. Right now, as of June 7th, 2026, as we make this show, Karmelo Anthony is on trial for murder. Austin Metcalf, the victim, told Anthony to leave the tent where he was not authorized to be. So Karmelo Anthony taunted him, then pulled out a knife and stabbed Austin right in the heart. From testimony we've heard so far in the trial, witnesses say Karmelo Anthony was aggressive and he had no reason to fear for his life from Austin Metcalf, and that he provoked the altercation. We all know why Karmelo Anthony killed Austin Metcalf. He felt disrespected by a white kid. Blacks believe they're entitled to take whatever they want, including a life, steal whatever they want, act however they want, and white people who won't put up with it get killed. We'll show you some of them in a minute. Karmelo Anthony immediately ran from the scene after he killed Austin Metcalf, but police caught him. And he told the cops that he did it. He said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." He admitted it. And then he asked the cops if what he did qualified for a self-defense plea at the scene of the murder. You will also recall that the Anthony family put up a fundraiser for Karmelo and netted more than $500,000 to help defend him in the murder trial, which I have seen. I cannot confirm this, but it appears that they have already run through all that money and spent it. And Karmelo, or Mello, as his defense attorney is insisting on referring to him in court. His defense attorney is a public defender because his family spent the $500,000 already. What do you expect from a family that names their kid after a misspelled candy bar? You might also remember that the victim, Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, attended a public relations conference that the Anthony family put on, and those black attendees abused Mr. Metcalf and ejected him. So what did Metcalf do? He did this. This was his statement to the press 1 day after his son was stabbed to death and died in his twin brother's arms.
It's very unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion for every human being. This is not, I want to make this very clear. This is not a race issue. This is not a black and white issue. I don't want someone stepping up on a soapbox trying to politicize this. I don't appreciate some of the remarks I've seen online that people say there was this fight and they don't know, they weren't there.
You see the anger, right? What gets him angry? Not his son's murder. The people noting that it was yet another black on white unprovoked killing. That's what makes him angry. I try, when I think these things through, when I try to figure out what I'm going to write about, I try to have empathy, not sympathy. Empathy. I try to understand. I try to put myself in that guy's place and think, in his circumstances, what would he feel? Could I understand this? I can't do it. I call it my failure of empathy. I can't intuit this. I can't understand it. And it's over and over and over and over again. Both the United States and Great Britain have, in the United States, I think it's called the Community Relations Division of the FBI. They sick these motherfuckers on victim families, white families, and coach them about saying these things. They do it deliberately to shush them, shut it down. Don't cause unrest. Evil. Trump should have gotten rid of that goddamn division already, and he hasn't. Well, let's sample some reaction from the black community. They've shown up to support Mello and threaten death against white people who want to see his killer locked up. This video comes from Talking Points USA.
I'm gonna push you if I get close enough. Push you right into that crate. You heard what I said, cracker. Neanderthal, I don't give a fuck what you say. Y'all get out you, cracker. Fuck you, cracker. Fuck you. We gotta get out of the road.
Let's get out of the road, please. Get out of the road, please.
You still a cracker. You still a cracker. You a cracker, motherfucker. You a cracker. You a cracker. He a cracker. You a cracker. You a cracker. You ain't gonna get me, cracker. They've been trying to get me, cracker. You ain't gonna get me, cracker.
Note the contrast between trim, fit, well-dressed, tie-wearing white boy and the morbid obesity of America's finest African Americans. Talking Points USA reports that one Karmelo supporter at that event we just showed you said, "You gon' end up like Metcalf pushing up daisies." Black people showed up to claim poor Karmelo was acting in self-defense when he stabbed a knife into Austin Metcalf's heart. Here's independent reporter Savannah Hernandez's footage.
Self-defense is not a crime. 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 Self-defense is not a crime.
Let's take a tour of Black Twitter. These that I'm going to show you are representative. These are not outliers, and it's not just Josh Slocum's personal algorithm distorting his view. These are the majority of responses from Black Twitter users. The outliers are the very few Black people calling out the psychopathy in their community. So first up, Judah says, "I agree. How can you be upset that we're supporting Karmelo Anthony when they supported and funded people who killed innocent blacks? This brother, Karmelo, was defending himself. He's being painted as a monster, but the brother was afraid and was being antagonized. Don't put your hands on someone if you don't want them to retaliate." The blacks are lying, as usual, trying to paint Austin Metcalf as a monster. Here's one. He's showing a picture of him and his brother in camouflage holding rifles. Austin Metcalf was a drug-using, gun-toting, savage thug. Let's put up the next one, please, Kevin. Account called Average Black American. Which is why 2 years after that, a young man decided to take matters into his own hand, and rather than run, he stood his ground. Karmelo Anthony took on two bullies who were pursuing him, and forever taught them a lesson that their father failed to teach them. Next one, please. This is from an account called Black Sword with a picture of the user showing his middle finger to the camera in his profile picture. And in that tweet, for those of you on audio, there is a picture of white Daniel Penny, the subway hero, being handcuffed on the left, and black Karmelo Anthony on the right. Text: if a white guy can murder a mentally ill homeless black man for screaming on a train, Karmelo Anthony can go free after defending himself against a bully who assaulted him multiple times. All of this is a lie. It's all lies. None of it's true. It's not a matter of opinion. There aren't any gray areas here. It's not a matter of interpretation. This is just psychopathic lying. There's our show thesis again. Reversal of the truth. Narcissism and psychopathy. Make the victim into a bullying killer. Call the victim an innocent... Call the killer an innocent angel acting in self-defense. Daniel Penny did not murder that lunatic, violent black man and drug addict called Jordan Neely on the New York subway. He restrained Jordan Neely, who was threatening to kill other subway riders. Neely died through his own actions. He had it coming, and I'm glad he's dead. Daniel Penny, miraculously, was acquitted. Most blacks are this way out of pure, unthinking envy and rage. There is no other conclusion that I can come to. and I resisted coming to this conclusion for years. I told myself inside my mind that I was being a racist to even consider it. That's the internalized narcissistic abuse that we moderns operate under. Many of you out there have been operating under it too. Well, it's true. Blacks won't work. They won't give their kids fathers. They won't stop killing each other. They won't stop robbing stores. They won't stop killing store owners. They won't get off welfare. They won't stop being morbidly obese and dying young. They won't stop raping white women. They won't stop killing white boys at orders of magnitude higher than white people ever assault or kill blacks. They live this way by choice and because we let them. We white people let them chimp out. They are only 13% of the population. We don't have to let them act this way. We are choosing this. And they see white people who have normal lives, normal children, and they fucking hate us. They hate us with murderous envy. Sane black people know that this is true. Ask them. There are many in the audience for the show. I have some of them in my client base. Some of them have become online friends that I exchange messages with. Some I even text on my own phone. They want nothing to do with their fellow blacks. They're humiliated to be associated with this scum. And they're rightly afraid of them. Blacks with a moral conscience and a work ethic are abused constantly by fellow blacks and often killed. Sane black viewers, I know that you are out there. What I'm saying tonight is not motivated by racism or skin color. You are my people. We are Americans together. I know what it's like for you, because it's like this for me when it comes to my fellow homosexuals. You are a small minority in your own minority demographic, and I'm the small minority in my small minority demographic. I've given up on blacks. I'm done permanently. This isn't going to change in my lifetime. I've only got 2 or 3 decades left, and I will not live to see this problem resolved. Congratulations, Black America. You helped turn a leftist, liberal, anti-racist, male feminist gay man into a guy who turns around and walks away quickly when I see black men walking down the street because I'm sane and I can see reality. So thank you. White people who are uncomfortable hearing this, well, they can't be reasoned with. Liberals mainly, but an awful lot of conservatives are in that group too. The evil enchantment, the spell, the hex that causes white self-hatred, male self-hatred, it's not restricted to the left. It is shot through self-described conservatives in 2026 as well. And it is those other white people that I'm going to talk about to close out the show. They are dangerous. They hate themselves, and they are fully under the spell of the sacred black victim, the sacred put upon woman, the sacred abused homo queer, to the point where they won't even defend their own children against brazen predation in broad daylight. Well, I've got a message for them after the break.
It's very unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion for every human being.
Since I'm feeling a little English tonight, I'm going to do this sponsor ad the way one of my favorite YouTubers who's English does. I would like to give a massive, absolutely massive thank you to our sponsor, BiltongUSA.com. What is biltong? Biltong is cured meat. It's the South African way of curing meat. It's like beef jerky, but much more gourmet. Very, very thin slices of high quality beef cured with vinegar and spices. Utterly delicious. I'm still running on a plate full of it right now because I eat it at least twice during show production. Why do I do that? Not only because it's delicious, but because it's the kind of snack that fills you up with animal protein and animal fat and not carbohydrates like a bag of chips. So my blood sugar isn't going to crash halfway through. I haven't met anybody that I've shared this with because I get it sent to my house twice a month. I haven't met anybody yet, with the exception of one person, but he's a little weird, who doesn't like this stuff. In fact, I have a hard time keeping it in my house because friends who drop by, including my handyman, will say, do you have any of that biltong? I know you have some in the freezer. So if you want to get in on this good thing, go to biltongusa.com. You've got a variety of choices. In season, there are also more exotic meats. Sometimes you can get venison. You can choose your spice and heat level. And don't forget to check out their sideline in imported European grocery treats. There's some delicious stuff in there. When you do order, be sure to use promo code JOSH to tell them that we sent you and to get 10% off your order. biltongusa.com. The trajectory from gelded liberal man to common sense conservative is a long one, and it's herky-jerky. The capital G, capital B, good boy gets just so far before he has to stop and signal, hey, I'm still a good boy. He can just about get to the point where he admits that the Democrats don't actually have empathy, that they're objectively cruel, wasteful, and hostile to white Americans. But then he has to stop and refly his good boy flag. He will grudgingly, with apologies at every step, allow us how women are able to be just as narcissistic and abusive as men are, but not without 3 times as much text proclaiming that women are not bad and men mostly really are. He signals that he's still a capital G good boy by saying things like this. He'll say, but it's not their fault. Structural deprivation, malnutrition, white supremacy, his grandpa's sadness over Jim Crow, those things made him do it. We're still at fault as white people. Or he'll say, it's appalling that the Democrats still want to chemically castrate children, let in unvetted illegal aliens, and tax whites at confiscatory rates so that welfare can keep flowing to black single mothers and illegals. But the real problem is Trump's patriarchal white supremacy. Or he'll say, it seems to be sadly true that we've discovered that women are capable of cruelty, as much as it pains me to admit that I can see that falsely accusing men of sexual harassment and ruining their careers is a thing that some women do. But I hasten to add that it's only a few, and we shouldn't put together any patterns from that. And also, did you know that 1 in 4 women are raped in their lifetimes? That's what the good boy does. I'd be surprised if you haven't seen this man. He's an archetype. I recognize him as a version of my former self. He has spent his life socially gelded, and he's in the process of getting his testicles back, but he's not all the way there. This is difficult for him as he was usually raised gelded from early childhood. Maybe he had an explicitly feminist mother like mine, but that's not necessary. Even if he grew up with a mother and father, neither of whom would call themselves feminists, he still grew up with a mother and father who were default feminists and default anti-racists and default liberals, because that is, in fact, the default stance of modern American culture. Not just the left, not just woke, mainstream default American culture. Conservatives too. Yes, sir and ma'am. Liberalism, feminism, Marxist-inflected views on the distribution of property, endless compassion for anyone who appears unfortunate. This is the received high-status opinion of the respectable modern American. It's gone on for so long that those born before this became universal have almost forgotten that the world existed differently before. Those who were born after this became universal literally don't believe the world was ever different. Could be different, or that it would be acceptable for the world to be different. Americans who are listening to me, Westerners who are listening to me, you think this isn't you? It is you. You may have heard those stories of defectors from North Korea who didn't believe that absurdly abundantly fully stocked grocery stores actually existed until they walked into one the first time they came to this country. They're often overcome with emotion when they see it for themselves. You should watch some of these videos. They break down in tears. But it's not the existence of that much food that triggers those emotions. It's the profound shift in worldview that they have to take on board. It's confronting that the real world evidence that everything they were taught about the world from birth was a lie. The people who raised them lied to them, or were passing on lies that they believed. The government never cared about them. It just lied to them. It should be no surprise that people find this overwhelming, that it provokes laughing and crying at the same time. It should be no surprise that this new awareness of the world brings nightmares and anxiety. As it did in a recent video I watched, a North Korean lady who came to the US for the first time and went to a supermarket. She had nightmares about how to select from that many variety of tomatoes. She had no way of processing this. Well, similarly goes the man who is waking up to reality, but who applies the brakes repeatedly so he can still be a good boy. For the North Korean defector, well, she's got a lifetime of moral commitment to overcome. Even though she now sees with her own eyes that America is not an evil place, that it is the land of plenty, that her government was evil, this clashes with her internalized view that the North Korean government is her family. And how could her family be the bad ones? You can understand this. It's natural. Well, it's the same for the struggling good boy. He can see with his own eyes that it's blacks who are violent to whites, not the other way around. He can see that the women of his clan, often liberals, insouciantly mock and degrade men constantly, while any man who objects to that is called himself abusive. He can see the confiscatory tax policies of the Democrat Party and how they punish productive people like him and give his money to Fatima and LaShonda so they can feed their kids without working. But this reality is horrifying to him. It means that the people that he knew as capital G good all his life were lying to him, or they were trapped in the same lie without knowing it themselves. And the truly terrifying part he doesn't want to admit is that those capital G good people in his life, including his family, might not be good people at all. It means that his place in the world, his means of seeing himself as a good boy, a good person, that was all a cruel, exploitative joke at his expense, and he's paying the tab now. Living this way didn't actually make him a good boy, and worse, it cost him money, clarity, and self-respect. This feels so awful that he wants to deny it, so he dithers. He vacillates between acknowledging reality for what it is, but then stopping to protest that it shouldn't be the way that it is. And anyway, maybe it was always wrong, but Trump and MAGA, they're bad. And Trump and MAGA say some of the same things I've been thinking. So that means I can't think them because they're bad. And if I share any beliefs or behavior in common with the bad Trump and the bad MAGA, then I'm bad too. And I know this because mommy said so. The faltering good boy finds this intolerable. He knows now that he can't pretend that real things aren't real anymore. But those things that are true are still, for him, emotionally contaminated. Current lingo would call them right-wing coded, which means evil. So he can't accept these things without being seen to protest them at the same time. That's key. He both has to see himself as resisting these truths, but he also needs other people to see him performing that resistance in front of them. So he writes blog posts or he writes columns where he throws in a teaspoon of truth acknowledgement, but blunts it with 3 more teaspoons of things like, of course, I'm not saying Trump could ever be right, and of course, women are still most affected by bad men, and surely we can all still agree that structural racism against blacks is real and is a much more pressing moral concern than anything that could happen to a white boy like me. It's the dynamic that I described on the show last week. Men raised by narcissistic mothers have inverted values instilled in them from birth. They grow up believing that they were born bad because they were born male. If all humans contain original sin, then the good boy has two original sins. He has fallen both as a human and as a male, as a man. The struggling good boy is frustrating to me, very frustrating. I owe him a charitable stance since what he's going through is normal and understandable, and most people in his circumstances would react the way he does. And I also owe that to him because I was him. And other people were patient with me as I struggled, and I have a duty to be as good to others as they have been to me. But I'm failing on this front. I can't get there yet. I can't get there right now. And I will not trust him, the good boy. I do not trust him. I want nothing to do with him. The struggling good boy is not trustworthy. And he will very likely throw a person like me or you to the wolves in one of his regressions when he stops and performs good boy for the huddled group of fellow liberals who are sitting there watching him from the corner for moral missteps. If he gets too close to the truth, he'll back off and apologize to them. If I'm standing in the room and I tell the complete truth that he knows is true and I do it without a simpering apology, he will rejoin that liberal huddle in the corner and point at me and call me an extremist. If there's some evil man who has to have his head displayed on a pike, the good boy will make sure it's my head, not his. He won't say, no one's head belongs on a pike, not even that guy. He won't do it. That is, he will act duplicitously and immorally. I did this for a time, and other sensible, sane people were correct not to trust me. I was not trustworthy when I remained in that state. The struggling good boys that I see all around us today are not trustworthy while they stay there. Those who get past that state usually become trustworthy. And that's what I hope for the good boys. But until they stop trying to be good boys entirely, I'll keep my distance. My heart would like to extend an olive branch and say, hey, you and I are brothers. But I won't do it. It would be foolish to do it. I'm old enough now to have observed predictable patterns and synthesize answers based on past behavior. I'm objectively correct that a struggling good boy turns on people like me, people like you, many of you in the audience. Your family's done it to you. I know because you tell me. Having been genuinely canceled myself, I lost my job, my career, nearly all of my friends, and all of my reputation in my field. I'm not going to cooperate in self-immolation again. But I wish the good boys well, and I will be quietly rooting for their success at becoming truly grown-up men. Once they do, maybe we can be friends. But not now. For now, I will keep myself strapped with my head on a swivel because I'm not going down with the good boys. Good night.